They existed together, but each saw things in their own way. It was as if each patient's consciousness filled in the blanks, creating their own reality.
Do you stand with Mobius?
I do. I made my choice.
The time spent inside of STEM causes all subjects connected to lose who they are. The time inside causes the degrade of one's personality as well as the values and everything that makes them who they are, leaving them like a crazed, uncontrollable force of emotions. Ruvik's original intent for STEM was to free his sister's consciousness, which was trapped inside of her body. The fire that scarred Ruvik also left his sister in a vegetative state. With her consciousness now trapped inside of her body, Ruvik wanted to set her free. This led to Ruvik's creation and control over STEM. He set up STEM to sync with his own brainwaves, making his involvement vital in order for STEM to function. This gave him the ability to control and manipulate what happened inside the world of STEM. The DLC dives further into this world created by Ruvik and his control over STEM. In this DLC, we're finally introduced to the Faceless Organization, and we learn its name, Mobius. Mobius is very powerful, and anyone who attempts to expose what they're doing disappears, or in reality, gets connected to STEM. A good example of this is Ivan Diaz, a freelance journalist who went missing upon his investigation into Mobius. Throughout your time, you run into him as he tries to warn you of Ruvik and help you along your way. Mobius's goal is to use STEM and its capabilities of joint consciousness connectivity for their own purposes. Ruvik was needed in order for STEM to run, since he had synced the system to his own brainwaves. But Mobius didn't want Ruvik having control. So Mobius killed Ruvik, removing his brain, then connecting it directly to STEM, allowing STEM to function purely off the brain of Ruvik. But Mobius didn't anticipate Ruvik gaining control, separating himself from his physical brain and taking over the world inside of STEM. And Mobius wants to flush out the world, eradicating Ruvik and everyone connected, excluding Leslie Withers. Leslie Withers was more than just another consciousness connected to STEM. He was a mental patient from Beacon Hospital that had the same capabilities and matching brainwaves as Ruvik. Mobius figured out that Leslie, just like Ruvik, had the potential to run the world of STEM. And being someone they could better control, Mobius wanted to safely remove Leslie from the world and start fresh with Leslie as the alpha. This makes Leslie very important and valuable in the eyes of Mobius. You cannot simply disconnect someone from STEM, as their mind is entangled, blended together with everyone else ever attached to STEM. Since all the minds are connected, the removal of one person would lead to the pulling out of additional, unwanted consciousnesses. The longer people are inside of STEM, the more they lose themselves and become part of the world created inside of STEM. So in further pursuit of discovery, a lot of disposable people were used in the initial testing of STEM. This left a lot of disturbed consciousnesses drifting aimlessly throughout the system. But Ruvik was different. He was able to maintain control of who he was. Leslie also had this ability. As you remember, he guided you as you played Sebastian, and even created his own safe place with the nurse. Remember, everything in the world is part of everyone who is ever inside of STEM. Even Kidman contributes to this world, adding art and a sofa and a warm friend to keep her company. Ruvik is a twisted individual, and he creates the world, mirroring his twisted thoughts and emotions of what had happened to him. Everyone slowly turns into the creatures created in Ruvik's world, both giving and taking pieces of whom and what they were. A rational, sane person can last longer, but in the end they all degrade, all lose who they originally were and become a mixture or amalgam of emotions. Once you are connected to STEM, it's impossible to leave without carrying out the mark of Ruvik and where you have been. You can see this mark multiple times on Kidman, the administrator, and others. Leslie becomes a special case, leaving STEM intact with the mind of Ruvik inside of him. Ruvik says he will leave his mark on anyone who enters STEM. His goal is to leave STEM and enter the real world, where he can just make eye contact with a person, connecting to them and influence them, just like he does inside of STEM. He wants to become omnipresent, everywhere and everyone at once. Ruvik has literally become a ghost in the machine. No longer physically connected to his body, he has become a consciousness inside of STEM. Ruvik recognizes that Leslie is his way out. He knows that Leslie is actual, tangible body or vessel that he can use to take over and escape his prison of STEM. Sebastian views Ruvik as a physical person, just like him trapped in this world. He views Ruvik as a mortal person, one who could be killed by a bullet or other earthly means. But Ruvik has no body, he has no flesh, and Kidman knows this because she was tasked by Mobius to pull Leslie out of STEM before Ruvik was able to gain complete control over him. Through conversations and letters, we learn that Kidman was a troubled youth. She had an extensive list of criminal charges and was facing jail time. Due to Kidman's past, she was the perfect candidate in the eyes of Mobius. Mobius promised Kidman a new start, a new apartment, and a chance to wipe away all her discretions of the past. All they asked of her was to retrieve Leslie and bring him back from inside of STEM. Before entering STEM, Kidman was given a vaccine or a blocker to help hide and protect her against Ruvik's control. During Kidman's interactions with Ruvik inside of STEM, she becomes aware of Ruvik's knowledge and intent of using Leslie as a body to escape. Kidman realizes Ruvik has already begun taking over Leslie. She sees the danger of Ruvik and knows the only way she can protect the outside world is by killing Leslie. Kidman very quickly changes her mission and goes against what Mobius asks of her, trying to murder Leslie. Mobius needs Leslie to run the machine, otherwise they don't have any way to get the machine working. The man from Mobius seen throughout the game and instructing Kidman on what to do is simply known as the Administrator, a high-ranking individual in Mobius. He gave Kidman her initial mission, tasked with freeing Leslie from inside of STEM. He too at one point was connected to STEM, and has been branded as well by Ruvik. Ruvik is fully aware of the Administrator's existence, and understands what this man and Mobius are trying to accomplish. Outside of the first few scenes, the intimidating, aggressive, and sometimes violent version of the Administrator is one created in the mind of Kidman over her guilt, mixed with Ruvik's knowledge of this man and his control over STEM. Through flashbacks and letters, we learn that Dr. Jimenez and Ruvik began to differ in their approaches towards the usage of STEM. Ruvik and Dr. Jimenez both realize this and attempt by different means to keep themselves involved with the project. They both know that if they are proven to be unneeded for STEM to function, they will be removed from the project permanently. Ruvik realizes this and tunes STEM to his own brain waves, making himself vital in order for STEM to function. Dr. Jimenez worries that Mobius will no longer have a need for him, and uses the fact that Ruvik is tough to deal with for a reason as Jimenez to stay on the STEM project. Dr. Jimenez convinces Mobius of the unstableness of Ruvik, and Mobius takes action, cutting up Ruvik so they can simply connect his brain to STEM, bypassing any need to have a Ruvik at all. But despite their attempts, Ruvik's consciousness is still alive in his brain, and he still gains control over STEM. Dr. Jimenez, in order to bypass Ruvik, removes his physical brain from STEM and activates a wireless STEM to go around Ruvik and gain control of STEM and Leslie from the inside. But Dr. Jimenez doesn't realize that Ruvik is a consciousness in the machine and no longer tied to his physical form. Kidman realizes she isn't tasked with removing Leslie from STEM, but from removing him from the connection he has with everyone else inside of STEM. To remove Leslie's connection to Dr. Jimenez and Ruvik, separating him without a trace of another person's consciousness. Dr. Jimenez activated the wireless STEM when you were on the way to the hospital in the car, and in that moment, everyone was connected to STEM. When Dr. Jimenez sets off the wireless version of STEM, it is not only affecting Sebastian and his group, but everyone in the area. Imagine, in a moment, Ruvik having instant control over everyone in the hospital, making them all go insane and attack one another. This is the carnage that is presented to us in the moment we enter the hospital for the first time. All the bodies and the death around you, caused by Ruvik's will on the hospital staff. Shortly after, we see a scene where you are being carried down the hall in a bed. This is the moment Mobius hooks you directly into STEM. The moment the creature begins to climb up from the foot of the bed, this is when you're actually hooked into STEM, and the evil is within you. Upon Kidman's release from STEM, she set Sebastian free, giving him a chance to live. This was also a sympathetic gesture to someone Kidman thinks still cares deeply for Sebastian. At the end of the game, you're introduced to this other person who is working for Mobius, Sebastian's wife, Myra Hansen. You see that she's been working with Mobius, and is helping them conduct their experiments. Through audio tapes that were presented to you throughout the game, you can hear Myra's voice speaking with Kidman, telling her to give Sebastian some space, showing that she might still care about him. Myra worked alongside Sebastian as a police officer, and now through letters, we're able to come to the conclusion that while investigating STEM, Myra somehow became involved with Mobius. She had a part in orchestrating everything, bringing Sebastian and everyone into STEM. There are a few predominant theories as to why Myra would be so heavily influenced with STEM. Some believe she is helping Mobius to get STEM working properly because her and Sebastian's daughter Lily isn't really dead. Just like Ruvik's sister, Lily's mind is trapped inside her body, or trapped inside another STEM, and Myra is working to set her free. Mobius's intent was to clean the world of STEM, leaving it empty so they could start new, with Leslie instead of Ruvik as the core. At the end, Mobius thinks Kidman did her job. They think she released Leslie, separating him from Ruvik while in the system. But in reality, unknown to them, Ruvik has entered Leslie, and Mobius now set Ruvik free in Leslie's body. With the death of Dr. Jimenez, Oscar Connolly, and many others, Mobius sends one last person into STEM to clean the remaining consciousnesses out of STEM. This is the role of the Executioner. The Executioner is a faceless man who enters STEM in order to save his daughter. This man's daughter was a past patient of Dr. Jimenez, and Mobius had connected her to STEM in order to bait him to combat and remove the remaining consciousnesses, freeing his daughter from inside the system. Just like Ruvik, we know that if you kill the body connected to STEM, that doesn't mean you remove the person and their being from it as well. That is why the Executioner has to go into STEM and kill the remaining people, thus removing them from within. A faceless man, who we never learn the identity of, is forced to fight for the life of his daughter. Once inside of STEM, this faceless man takes on the form of the Keeper, a stronger form than himself. This gives him greater abilities and a greater chance when fighting the remaining individuals attached to STEM. We learn, in addition to everyone we've met so far, there were 7 others referenced that are still connected to STEM. 1. An adolescent female. 2. A detective. 3. A twin sibling. 4. A paroled murderer. 5. A psychiatric patient. 6. An ex-soldier. 7. Father of an adolescent female. Each one is a person, a consciousness still connected to STEM, but just like all the other consciousnesses connected to STEM, each one of these has begun to change and mutate into a horrible emotional form of their former selves. The adolescent female is your daughter, for which you have come to save. She has begun to forget things about her family, and the longer she is inside a STEM, the more she forgets. The detective is our friend Joseph. Battling him and killing him, we are still unsure if it was really him, or just a memory since he is missing from the bathtub at the end of the game. As often in stories like these, if you don't see someone dead, most likely they're not. The twin sibling is known as Zen. Missing his deceased brother, he longs for the time to be back together, letting emotions change him. The paroled murderer, one with natural tendencies for violence, becomes the sadist. The psychiatric patient, who is a mixture of all the emotions, forming a crazed beast of countless personalities. The soldier, mentally scarred from the battlefield, now a rocket launcher sadist, violent and equipped with his weapon of choice. And finally you, the father of an adolescent female, voluntarily sent in to save your daughter from the twisted world of STEM. In the body of the Keeper, you meet up with each of these individuals, murdering them from the inside of STEM, and extinguishing them from existence, removing them all with the promise from Mobius that your daughter will and can be removed safely. In the end, as the Keeper, you must kill yourself, allowing your daughter to be the only consciousness attached to STEM. This allows for the removal of her as a whole from STEM, keeping her consciousness intact. After killing yourself, you see the camera pull away. Another brain has taken the place as Alpha in the system. This is your brain, now an empty blank slate. Your daughter, now free from STEM, walks over to your lifeless body, mourning your loss, but also proof that consciousness can be woken up from within inside of STEM. STEM is finally clean, and now Mobius can continue moving forward with their testing and improving STEM.